Headphones going, and we are ready to do a little radio.
Now, Chris Duel.
Good morning on this final day of August, the holy football-laden month of September falls to us tonight at midnight. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney, and once again, all kinds of things going on in the world of sports. We are talking about them all. We are reacting to them all. We are keeping an eye on anything that might break along the way between now and 9 o'clock. Got a whole lot of great things coming your way this morning. We love talking Texas Longhorns with Taylor Estes, the managing editor of Horns 24/7, and certainly a lot to talk about with regard to the Longhorns. This is game week. Longhorns play on Saturday against Louisiana, a ranked team. Steve Sarkisian, the new Longhorns head coach, has picked his starting quarterback, but the other dude will play as well. So there's a whole lot to talk about there. COVID strikes another NFL team and a apparent starting quarterback who was not vaccinated. We'll get into that. Astros win overnight. That's a beautiful thing. Lots and lots to talk about on a Taco Tuesday. Shannon Salty Sweeney wearing your all gas, no brakes, Longhorns hat today. Welcome in. How are you?
Felt it very appropriate. Sark had his.
Yes.
We're in the swing of things. It's a regular week, so that means we're getting pressers on Monday. And after that presser, I was like, we got to wear the Sark inspired hat. We got to get ready. It's finally game week. It's finally here. And you mentioned all the things we're discussing today. I have my draft tonight, and I can't decide if I am like underprepared and I should have studied and taken some notes and have some players ready in the queue, or if that's going to stress me out too much for something that doesn't matter. So I'm going with the not just going to wing it approach.
Yeah, I used to really prepare for fantasy football drafts until I discovered the cheat sheets, and I compared how my knowledge to the cheat sheets. And if you've got a reliable source for a cheat sheet, as long as it's up to date and you don't draft DK Dobbins or JK. What's Dobbins' name?
Yeah, I didn't realize I had Dobbins on my random draft that I had done earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not invested in that one financially. I am in for 20 deep for the one I'm joining today. So I care that much more. I care 10 small French fries from McDonald's more. Whatever it is, because their prices keep going up. I care that much more.
Very nice. Well, best of luck tonight in your fantasy draft.
Thank you.
Lots going on in the world of sports. One of the things that jumped out at me yesterday, Shannon, and we'll get into all of it, and we want to welcome in. I see people already jumping on board on the live video stream. Wes, Hector, Louisa, Tracy, welcome in. If you're new to the show, we do have a live video stream. It's a lot of fun. You not only interact with us live and in real time, but you cross-interact with other great peeps across the state of Texas, across the country, and often around the world. And you can get there on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. On Facebook, AM 1300 The Zone, or Ticket 760. So good morning, everybody who's already joining us there. Carson Wentz, Shannon, now sidelined by COVID, and I learned yesterday, I guess he's been following the advice of Dr. Cole Beasley. Carson Wentz was not vaccinated. Way to go, Car. Here's a guy I have been trying to like. I felt sorry for him. A guy who could have gone to a Super Bowl with the Eagles but got hurt. So his team goes to the Super Bowl. Nick Foles leads the way. They build a statue to Nick Foles that Carson Wentz had to walk by every day in Philadelphia, even after Nick Foles was gone. He goes to Indianapolis. He gets the injury. I was beginning to feel bad for Carson Wentz all of a sudden now my sympathy for him is really being tested.
See, I didn't realize he wasn't vaccinated. Doesn't he have? I don't want to get into his familial business, but doesn't he have a relatively young, like a 1-year-old or something? Wouldn't you do everything in your path? Forget the football, whatever. That 1-year-old, and you're a guy who, for work, travels all of the time
Yeah.
and works in an industry where, as of right now, it stands that no players do not have to be vaccinated. Like I was with you. I was starting to feel almost bad for the guy. Because it's almost kind of like hysterical and that these things keep happening, but this one completely within his control. And now he ends up on the COVID. And again, we told you yesterday, Sam Ellinger is not eligible to start now because of his knee injury.
Yeah.
So they'd be going with who would probably be deemed the third stringer if Carson and Sam are both healthy. You're letting your team down. You're letting yourself down. I don't know, probably letting your baby down, sir.
Yeah. And again, and I know there's a significant number of people out there who are, for one reason or another, anti-vaxxers. So we don't try to dwell on that debate here. But, I just occasionally pass along information that I have heard from reliable sources. And one of those is that this Delta variant, you bring up a child or a 1-year-old, Shannon, this Delta variant is affecting young people and children more so than the original COVID-19 strain that we dealt with as a country and as a people in the year 2020. This one's a lot scarier. This one is having a wider range of people that are being affected more. I spoke with a doctor last week. My mom's doctor made a house call, which was great because my mom's 98, so it kind of helped out my mom. But she was just talking to me, this doctor, about just how horrible this latest strain of COVID-19 is, the Delta variant. And she said she had seen, like a 22-year-old weightlifter in great shape get it and die from it. And then she said she had seen a 92-year-old woman get it and get over it pretty quickly. So, I mean, she said there's no rhyme or reason to it, the way things turn out with it. And she said the main thing that people need to know is, it is not a merciful death. It is a very difficult death. So again, not to dive into the COVID talk, but once again, it touches the world of sports. It also, Shannon, New York Mets, who are certainly in the news this week for turning on their fans after hitting home runs. Their ace pitcher, who's coming off of Tommy John surgery, Noah Syndergaard, also has been diagnosed with COVID-19. So, I mean, it's like every day in sports, obviously, the last couple of weeks, the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn, and others not able to participate because of it. And my concern, Shannon, and here, the NFL apparently yesterday came to an accord with the Players Association over testing, regular testing for COVID-19. To assume now that we're moving into the regular season in the NFL a week from Thursday, to assume it's not going to continue, I think would be wildly optimistic or delusional. It is going to continue to affect players and teams and maybe your favorite team, whichever team that may be. So certainly something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, the more frequent testing will be interesting because on the good side, right, there's the fact that if they do catch a positive case, that they get them out of the facilities and away sooner, as of not to spread it further. On the other hand, as we get closer to game week and games start taking place, and these measurements that say you have to be away from the facilities for X amount of days with a negative test, you do more of these tests, you are then opening up the windows to get more positive tests back that maybe wouldn't be positive if they tested later, or maybe they don't test at a certain point prior to a game and they end up playing in that game, whether they were positive or not. So it'll certainly be interesting. At a time when I am out here looking for who's getting cut, right? We get down to the 53-man roster today. And I'm seeing names like Carson. I'm like, they didn't cut him. Why is he trending? And it's because of this. And I don't like that this is still, part of our world in the conversation, because I'm focused on, okay, who's out, who's in.
Yeah. And And you make a great point. It's something to keep an eye on today. NFL teams will be cutting down to get to that 53-man roster. So you're going to probably see some big names, not big names, but names that getting cut today. Invariably, it happens for a number of reasons. Obviously, Shannon, we're going to pay very close attention to that Dallas Cowboys backup quarterback position. Which of the three might they cut? You and I pretty much agree that Garrett Gilbert, his job, at least for now, is safe. And, perhaps Ben DiNucci or Cooper Rush might get cut or not. One may just go right to the practice squad and they may carry three, and or it's time also to pay attention to other quarterbacks that might get cut around the league. And is there anybody there the Cowboys might be interested in? You made the point yesterday. I was asking you if you would have felt better, or if you could now be down with the Cowboys getting another backup quarterback who might have more talent than a Garrett Gilbert. But the point you made, and it's something to consider, you bring in a new quarterback, he doesn't know the system. So would you rather now, we're a week and 2 days out, we're 9 days out from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the Thursday night opener. Would you rather bring a guy in and have him begin to learn the system? Or do you say, you know what? Garrett Gilbert and Cooper Rush and Ben DiNucci, they've been in this system, each of them for at least over a year. So we got to ride with these guys, even though they may not be the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, that along with weighing the money, because there isn't a lot of it to go around on the Cowboys side of thing. Yesterday it was announced that Chicago is shopping around Nick Foles, but they're in agreement that they're not just going to send him anywhere. They're going to allow him to say, yes, I'm willing to go here, or no, I'm not. And I don't know what kind of money the Cowboys would have to. I think they'd probably want Chicago to pay for most of that. I know they restructured Zeke's contract too. I think they added an extra $6 million to their cap space. But money is an issue, and you weigh that against having guys that aren't necessarily prepared but know the system and could have more time to be prepared, or a guy who can maybe hang tough better back there in the pocket without knowing the offense as well. All things would just be easier said than done, but all things would be much better if we knew Dak was actually 100% and that he would stay 100% throughout the season and not have this. Is he going to be needed? Is backup really going to be needed in the way it was last year?
And that big question for Cowboys fans and for the rest of the NFL who is interested about Dak Prescott, is he all the way back? There's probably not a worse defense or glass half empty, glass half full, maybe, or a better defense to test yourself against.
Get it out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. Then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who had Patrick Mahomes running for his life throughout the Super Bowl. We're going to find out real quick. And, for Dak Prescott per play, that rush is going to be bearing down on him. The question is he going to try to get rid of the ball a little quicker? And is that going to cause some timing issues? Or does he feel that ankle is prepared for him to move around a little bit? Because he's, previous to that catastrophic injury last year, Dak Prescott was pretty skilled at being elusive in that backfield. So many questions will be answered regarding Dak and the Cowboys. Down to single digits now, 9 nights from tonight.
If the Tampa Bay Bucks have their way with the Cowboys early, do you pull Dak Prescott?
I think in this case you do.
Do you wave the white flag in the middle of a game, the first game? The Cowboys would be, they're already ridiculed for every move they make, but for that to be the opener of the NFL season, nationally televised Thursday night, to wave the white flag, game one, to say we must protect the prince.
I don't think you wave it early in the game, but I would say if you're going into the fourth quarter and you're down by 24, I almost feel like if you're down by 3 touchdowns, even at 21 with 15 minutes, you got a fourth quarter to play. At 21, theoretically, you could have 3 possessions and get 3 touchdowns and come back. Highly unlikely, but I think, if it were out of hand, if it were 34-10 Tampa Bay going into the fourth quarter. I think, yeah, then I do believe you think about it. And if you don't want to do that, but either way, Mike McCarthy's going to get slammed by Cowboys fans. If you don't want to do that, you just start handing the ball off.
Well, and given what we've seen from Dak in Hard Knocks episodes, just being pulled out of practice reps, he's not a happy camper. So he wouldn't go down without a fight. I mean, he's going to play every rep he can, even if they are down 21 plus with just a quarter to go. And I hate that as a Cowboys fan to be like, should we waive the life? Should we just give up? Should we just move on to the rest of the season? Because I'm always so amped about us going to the Super Bowl every year.
Well, and again, and we talked about this yesterday on that Dallas Cowboys broadcast when they played the Jags on Sunday. Michael Irvin bringing up late in the game the prospect of, what if the Cowboys win that game? So as much as if we're going to be realists, that Tampa Bay they're defending Super Bowl champions. They're getting everybody back. They're a darn good football team. And until somebody else beats them, they're the best football team in the NFL. And, Kansas City Chiefs may be 1A and 1B to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But, if Dak is all the way back, Tyron Smith, who's always banged up on that offensive line, says he's ready to go. If that offensive line is ready to go, we know the skill position players are amazing. Somebody else that, we don't talk about a lot, but it's an upgrade. Blake Jarwin back at tight end, back from that injury. Not a huge upgrade from Dalton Schultz, but, a slight upgrade. So, I mean, that offense is going to be very, very, very good if everybody's healthy. And, you and I have said for months now, Shannon, that offense should be able to put up 30, 35 points per game. And we'll see how the Cowboys defense can handle Tom Brady and company. I'm hoping for a great game. Obviously I'm a Cowboys fan. I want a Cowboys win, but wouldn't it be tremendous if in that fourth quarter with 5 minutes to play, it's a one possession game one way, or it's either tied or, one team is one possession away from tying or taking the lead. That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah. And I think, they scheduled this game with reason, right? I mean, the NFL has to have some belief behind it that the Cowboys all healthy will look. I mean, we forget. I mean, they were rolling with Dak last year. Yeah. He was putting up amazing numbers.
True.
It was just the defense that wasn't doing anybody any favors.
We got lots coming at you this morning on a Taco Tuesday. Lots to talk about. Again, NFL, Cowboys, Texans, Deshaun Watson, some more rumbling there on, somebody might make a move on him. He may be a Miami Dolphin or go elsewhere. We will go deep into the Texas Longhorns throughout the morning, and certainly just after 8 o'clock with Taylor Estes, the managing editor of Horns 24/7. We're going to give away Coheed and Cambria tickets again. It's this weekend. They're coming to Austin. You can score those tickets today and throughout the week. We'll do that just to let you know a little bit after 8:30. Coming up, the high five play of the day, 7 o'clock hour, Shannon's Salty Shakedown, sports history, sports birthdays, your phone calls. We love talking with you. Jump in here with us if you got something on your mind. 800-707-9760, 800-707-9760. Dave Ayler is the soundscape stylist. We'll talk with Dave coming up in the next segment as well. Don't go anywhere. Thanks for hanging out with us till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Good morning, Beth Settle. You are up early again. Let's see. Everybody on Facebook Live, welcome and good morning. Wes Perkins, Hector Gomez, Luisa Alanis, Tracy Bogert, the chairman of the Bexar County MAGA Republicans and United Anti-Vaxxers. Welcome in. David Valles, Anthony Del Toro, Wes Perkins, Dave Emilio Castanuela, Steve Duraco, the original Rock, the original Italian Stallion, Anthony Del Toro, who, if the San Antonio Toros come back into existence, will change his name to Anthony Del Toros, plural. Thank you. I'm serious. When we get our NFL team, I do like San Antonio Toros. I know They existed as a semi-pro team in the 60s and 70s. I know. However, it's quite the good name. And it's got the Latino flavor. And we already know from Toros games back in the day, the fans, the PA announcer goes, "Ole Toros!" And the fans go, "Ole!" It was pretty cool. You had to be there. Steve Duraco was there. I know that. All right. Is my coffee still warm enough? Yeah. My little Strato tanker kept it relatively warm. Dave, I'm going to bang out a couple spots here. I got to do a few. I got like 10 of them between now and 9 I got to do. All right. Time for multitasking. There you go, Hector Gomez. Ole Toros. Hector Gomez knows what I'm talking about. All right. Let me see here. All right. Anthony Del Toro poo-pooing Dak's stats from last year. Yeah, he was behind in a lot of those games because of that awful defense. Let's see if this is working. Check. 1, 2. Check. That's working. All right. I am going to mute myself for a moment while I bang out a couple of spots. All right, 2 of 10. I've got to record 10 spots this morning, and I just did 2 of them. Of course, I have to edit them, but let's see. Jason Paniagua, buenos dias. ¿Cómo está? Now I'm going to save that. Let's go up, up. Okay, so Astros won last night, 4-3 over Seattle. Now, did the Oakland A's play? I don't see Oakland playing last night. So let me look at those standings. I think that would mean a 6-game lead for the Astros. This computer is very sluggish this morning. 6. And Seattle was kind of in the mix at 7.5 out. And then, they beat Seattle last night in Seattle. So now an 8.5 game lead over Seattle. So that's looking good. Now, who do the A's play tonight? Hopefully. The A's are at the Detroit Tigers. Detroit is 8 games below 500. Detroit is 34-33 at home. And the A's are 35-28 on the road. So that's a pretty good matchup for the A's.
Let's get back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Find Chris and Salty on Twitter at Chris Duel and at Shannon B. Sweeney.
And we do like it when you tweet at us. We do respond. So that's a good thing. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Don't forget, later this morning, your opportunity to win Coheed and Cambria tickets. What a big weekend. They are in town this weekend. And as Shannon pointed out, you could theoretically go to the Longhorns game against Louisiana and still make it over to Circuit of the Americas for the Coheed and Cambria concert, which would be crazy, but doable. Why not? Live large. Speaking of the Horns, Taylor Estes, managing editor of Horns 24/7. She is going to join us just after 8 o'clock. Shannon's Salty Shakedown, just about an hour away now. This day in sports history, sports birthdays. Lots of fun people already joining us on the live video feed. And if you want to jump in on the phone lines at any time, you're welcome. 707-9760 is that phone number. Before we do the high five play of the day, I have yet to introduce our soundscape stylist, Dave Ayler. Dave, how are you this morning?
I'm just impressed by you being all Astroed out there.
That's right. I got an Astros baseball cap. I've got an Astros World Series T-shirt, and the Astros did win last night in Seattle, which is cool. They won 4-3, so they now have Oakland did not play last night, so the Astros have a 6-game lead over the Oakland A's and a 8.5-game lead over Seattle in the AL West. So thank you, sir.
And if the Astros, if they don't go to the World Series, are you done with baseball? Or once they're out of the playoffs, I should say.
Just because playoff postseason baseball is so much fun. I mean, I'll be very disappointed. My dream is with everybody booing the Astros stadium after stadium after stadium. It would be so nice to kind of stick it to these Astro hater fans and just win one and say, hey, how are you going to hate us now? No trash cans were involved. But no, I would still watch. Now, we've been talking about you as a St. Louis Cardinals fan and a guy from the St. Louis area looking very much like St. Louis will not go to the postseason. Are you going to watch postseason baseball?
Yeah, I'll stick with it. I hope the Astros, it can't be the Astros, I hope it's Tampa Bay. Just Tampa Bay has they spend no money on anything and they still compete every year. But if the World Series ends up being, Yankees and Dodgers, then I'm not watching that garbage.
That's what a lot of people are saying. A lot of people are picking Yankees, Dodgers.
I hope not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like either of those teams. So, yeah, I don't want that to happen. But if it was Yankees, Dodgers, I'd have to watch. That would still be a big matchup.
I'll be a big matchup, but I'm not watching.
that would be,
I want both teams to lose.
Yeah. Okay. There you have it. So, and by the way, nice plain T-shirt. I see your graphic on the live video feed. It is a plain shirt Tuesday for you.
You picked up plain shirt Monday. I'll take plain shirt Tuesday.
Exactly. So here we go. All right. Welcome in everybody on the live video feed. Robert just said gluten morning, my friends. Or gluten. Sorry, gluten. I thought gluten, that would have been weird. Robert, Robert's joining us on YouTube.
You don't know if he has celiac disease or not.
Yeah, no, he's a gluten.
Gluten-free.
Yeah, gluten. I thought, okay, man, that's weird. Okay, it is time for the high five play of the day. One of our favorite segments because it's good to affirm people. It's good to celebrate when somebody does something good, and that's what we do. And speaking of celebrate, you can celebrate at High Five, who sponsors appropriately this segment. High Five, 2 locations in the Austin area with so much going on at each location. First of all, big screen TVs everywhere, so you watch whatever sports you darn well please. Great food, great drinks, food specials, drink specials, and great fun games you can play, from bowling to laser tag to axe throwing. High Five has it going on at both their Austin area locations. Shannon Salty Sweeney, who is most deserving of a high five this morning?
This one's pretty easy, as it usually is when people donate and give back and just do good deeds. And of course, the Saints, I believe they're in Houston right now.
Dallas.
That's where it is. Okay, who's in Houston? Oh, LSU's in Houston.
Jerry World, yeah.
They're kind of staying out of Louisiana due to Hurricane Ida, but that doesn't mean that their hearts and their thoughts are not back in their home state, as the owner of the New Orleans Saints, along with the New Orleans Saints, Gail Benson, has donated, sir, $1 million towards the Gulf refund. They're looking to help renew that area. I mean, what a quick turnaround from hurricane to bang. Here's the money that you need to start getting underway. Saints have also said they'll help. Here's our facilities that you can use and to help anybody who needs it. Luckily, the Superdome, they said, did not sustain a lot of damage due to the recent hurricane, so they may be able to use that to house some people. They do have a week 1 opener there, so they aren't sure yet if that'll play out there or if they will end up moving it. But it's so great when these giant organizations, corporations are still very locked into the community that they call home and give back and give quickly, right? A lot of times we see this happen, and it's only because there's been backlash from a fan base to say, how can you not? So amazing, and high five to Gail Benson and the Saints organization.
Yeah, I second your high five to Gail Benson and the Saints. And of course, no fan base knows the devastation of a hurricane more than those Saints fans. And ironically, and we talked about this, Shannon, that Hurricane Ida hit New Orleans and the Louisiana Gulf Coast on the 16th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. So my gosh, that community has been through so much. Raises a couple of questions though, and you're right. The Saints are scheduled for an opener against the Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, week 1. And if that were moved, 16 years ago when the Saints could not play, and first of all, to underscore what you said, there are currently no reports of significant damage to the Superdome. So that's a very, very good thing and will probably affect this equation. But 16 years ago, when they couldn't play at the Superdome, they came to San Antonio. They came to the Alamo Dome and played 3 games, 3 regular season games, did those New Orleans Saints. I'm just saying, Mayor Ron Nierenberg of San Antonio, get on the phone and say, hey, man, hope it all goes well in New Orleans. But if you and the Packers are looking for it and you don't want to go to Lambeau, who wants to do that? Give up a home game and go play at their house. We in San Antonio, we got a building. Come on down. Let's do it.
Because at that time, you didn't have UTSA playing on Saturday.
Well, they're not playing this. They're in Champaign, Illinois this Saturday. Oh, that's right. But it's a week from that. So, yeah, but still, you can turn that around.
Anyone, I mean, the turnaround that they have to do for those stadiums just with imaging alone is insane.
Let's do it.
Stadiums.
I'll go help.
It's not as simple.
I'll go help paint the end zones.
You gotta flip out in less than 24 hours.
We'll do an all-nighter, and I'll help paint the end zones if we can get the Saints and the Packers in here on opening Sunday.
Game.
Yeah.
I mean, the implications. Could you imagine if the Saints won that game with their new quarterback? Whoever.
Yes.
Have they decided yet?
Yeah, it's Jameis.
Jameis, okay.
It's Jameis Winston.
I still see some reports people being like, he's not the guy.
Yeah, currently the two that we don't know yet from what I have been hearing, Patriots have not made a decision yet. Cam Newton or Mac Jones. What is the kid from Alabama?
Mac Jones.
Mac Jones, yeah. And by the way, his nickname Mac and Cheese. Please, can we work on a better nickname for Mac Jones than Mac and Cheese?
Does everybody need a nickname? I think that's what the conversation.
That's true. First of all, you don't need a nickname. Secondly, don't be like this cheesy food that you only really eat when there's nothing else.
That makes weird noises when you put a fork in it.
Or you're a college student. I mean, we ate a lot of mac and cheese as college students. You're in the pros now. So the other one, of course, the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah. Is Jimmy G the man? Well, go ahead.
That decision might be made for them. Adam Schefter reporting yesterday that Trey Lance has a small chip in his finger.
Uh-oh.
He will miss about a week as of right now. And a week is fine.
Yeah.
It's right now. But that's still that puts them Tuesday of next week. They'll have to decide.
See, in both cases, I believe, and I think it was Colin Cowherd or somebody yesterday making the argument that both of those teams have good offensive lines. So you could put the rookie in on week 1, that you shouldn't do that. If you don't have a good offensive line, we saw last year with Joe Burrow, how bad things can go. And that was in Cincinnati. But I still think Cam Newton, led a team to a Super Bowl, longtime NFL veteran. Jimmy Garoppolo, 49ers, led them to a Super Bowl recently. I think with each week, and I know eventually, both of those quarterbacks, the rookies, are the future of those teams. But the longer you sit them on the bench and let the veteran play week by week by week, I think those rookie quarterbacks grow. And both of those, the Patriots, obviously Buffalo is favored to win the AFC East, but the Patriots I think believe that they can maybe win that division or possibly get a wild card. So it's not like they don't feel they're going to have a good team. And obviously, same thing with the 49ers coming back from all those injuries a year ago. They want to come back to being in the year before that, they were a Super Bowl team. So I think both teams, you have a better chance to win on opening day with a veteran at quarterback as opposed to the rookie.
It's crazy, the NFL and like the idea of the benefit of the doubt, because those quarterbacks you mentioned, like MVPs, and they've been to Super Bowls and they've done great things with their teams, whether they're previous or not. And for whatever reason, because they're not reaching that pinnacle again, well, now it's like their career is over. Whereas you have Andy Dalton being the king of mediocrity in Cincinnati for forever, and he's still getting chances to lead a team.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't declined, but he certainly isn't Super Bowl worthy, in my opinion.
No. Yeah. And I think most people, that situation in Chicago, believe that Andy Dalton, maybe after 1 week after, I truly believe that. So, but yeah, as you mentioned, today is cut down day, Shannon, 53-man rosters. A number of names that I'm sure we will recognize will be cut. We'll see what the Dallas Cowboys do. We'll see if anybody interesting is cut and shows up on those waiver wires, and we'll see what other teams choose to do. And as we roll forward, we got lots and lots more to talk about from the NFL. Certainly, we've got lots of information going on regarding college football. We're going to go hardcore into college football and the Texas Longhorns with Taylor Estes, the managing editor of Horns 24/7. That'll be just after 8 o'clock. We've got updates on Eli and Peyton Manning. Deshaun Watson, got to talk about him. Will this be the day that he gets moved? And the NFL has some more gambling partners. Gambling, once totally forbidden. Paul Hornung of the Packers in the 60s was banned from the league for a year for gambling, and now the NFL really embracing gambling more than ever. Lots to talk about. Your phone calls along the way, 800-707-9760. She is the salty one, Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Ayler, your soundscape stylist. I'm Chris. It's the Chris Duel Show. All right. Now, back to recording. Let's see if I can bang out. I'm going to record again. See if I can bang out these final three of the first batch. Jorge, welcome in.
For some reason you got out real early there for some reason?
I read the clock wrong. Yeah.
I'll fill it with some.
Sorry about that, Shannon. Yeah, I read 54:10, and it was 52:10. All right. Let me see this. All right, that's now not working. Which I don't understand. But I'm going to do this anyway.
This is the Chris Duel Show. Now, Chris Duel.
Happy Taco Tuesday, August 31st to you on this final day of August, moving into the football month of September at midnight tonight. Welcome in. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney, Dave Ayler, your soundscape stylist. You are welcome to be a part of the show always at 800-707-9760. And you're going to want to remember that phone number, 800-707-9760. It could be your key to Coheed and Cambria tickets as they come to the Circuit of the Americas, specifically Germania Insurance Amphitheater. That'll be 6:30 on Saturday. And as Shannon, you've been pointing out, if you're a hardcore sports and entertainment person, you can go to the Longhorns Louisiana game first and still make it over to Coheed and Cambria. You can have a football music doubleheader kind of Saturday.
That's a yes, if you're a fan. I myself, I can only do one social engagement a day, and football is it for me on Saturday. Especially considering, I'm gonna get there early and check out all of the new and fun things along Bevo Boulevard, Smokies Midways, the new hideout with the beer truck. I'm gonna do all of that. So that's just an added 3 hours to my day on top of the football game. I'm gonna
Very
be
nice.
socially. Don't ask me to do anything on Sunday. I will have maxed out.
That'll be your
after
recovery day.
Yes.
And it's your final Sunday without NFL regular season football or playoff football for a while. So you've got to rest up.
Most people need physical recovery. I need social recovery.
Well, and a lot of people
max out quickly.
Well, you talk about social recovery. I've worked with people before. We do 3 hours of radio.
Yeah.
And then, after the show in like sports, and you work with them. Then after the show, they want to hang out and talk sports with you for 30 minutes. And often it'd be somebody I worked with. Like Dave doesn't do this, and nobody we're currently working with. So I'm not calling out you, Dave Ayler, or Jeremy, or anybody. But it's like, you really want to hang out with me in the parking lot and talk sports, and we just talk sports for 3 hours? It's like, I got a life to lead, cha-cha. Come on.
I can only handle you for 3 hours, Chris. That's all I can take.
Exactly. I
I
understand.
just shoved the podcast at him, or listen, if we do this over adult beverages, okay, that's different.
Yes.
I can. That's a different. But then that turns into a different conversation entirely. A
Yes.
couple adult beverages in, but yeah, ditto.
All right. So, but yeah, I do need social recovery sometimes. So, yep, there's that. The NFL is they inked a deal with some gambling partners, some of whom we recognize: Shannon, Caesars, DraftKings, FanDuel. Oh no, the latest are Fox Bet, BetMGM, PointsBet, and WynnBet, WYNN, such as the Wynn Las Vegas Hotel and Casino. Gambling now, Shannon, this just, a number of years ago, 5-10 years ago, it didn't seem that gambling would be this associated with the National Football League, but here we go.
Yeah, it makes sense with where we are moving into things. It's still tricky with, states having their own regulations, right? So Texas is kind of left out of this, which is interesting considering the Cowboys being the money-making machine that they are. And then you also have the Houston Texans, which, they're no Cowboys, but they're still an NFL organization who bring in a lot of coin year in and year out. And we've already heard of, I think Arizona's not getting their sports book in the stadium until the 2022 season, but these teams that are putting them that much closer to fans, not only are they saying here's access, but here it is right in front of you. So I think it makes sense that we're moving that way. It'll be interesting to see if states kind of get along with that too, because it is such a money-making business on top of the money you're already making.
And you bring up the state of Texas. For the longest time, I've just assumed, especially given his billions and given his influence, and he does have influence beyond the National Football League. He certainly has influence in politics. Jerry Jones, you talk about a guy who would really benefit from having a sports book in Cowboy Stadium. Can you imagine if Jerry Jones gets his greedy fingers into the gambling world? I mean, already the Cowboys worth $5 billion. Jerry Jones, being the businessman that he is, finds another revenue stream in addition to the ones he already has. My God.
You say like a sports book within the stadium. I picture him just building an entirely new building right next to it, and it create like a whole environment and even more money. But also, I don't know, maybe part of his ego, because he is obviously very much Cowboys, and I think a lot of the lines as it stands today would come in betting against the Cowboys. And maybe, I don't know, maybe his ego either doesn't like that, or maybe his ego likes the thought of how much money I can make when my team shows them what's good. I don't know.
Yeah. And, every so often you have a gambling scandal. Sometimes in college over the years, like in basketball, there's been point shaving scandals. As gambling becomes more mainstream, I think it's inevitable. It's human nature. Human beings, if you have enough of them, a certain percentage of them will commit crimes. And you mentioned, Shannon, so much money that can be made in gambling. Eventually, probably sooner than later, we're going to have another sports point shaving scandal. But what's interesting, how they used to kind of happen in college sports and college basketball more than professional. Now with name, image, and likeness, that's why college students were easy prey, because they had their scholarship and they had their lunch, their meal card that they could eat at the dining hall on campus, but they didn't have a lot of spending money. So a gambler could come up and say, "Hey man, if you make sure that your team doesn't win by more than 7, I can make it worth your while and give you a couple $1,000. Maybe now players might be less susceptible to that with name, image, and likeness.
Yeah, that is an interesting way to look at it. I haven't thought about that one specifically, but yeah, and you're right. It's almost like the weed conversation, right? Of if you regulate it, it's almost easier to manage than letting those run wild behind the scenes.
Yes.
And and I kind of have the same sentiment towards gambling, specifically when it comes to sports betting in this case.
Well, and and the other thing, and this brings us into something like a Pete Rose situation. Whenever you go into any professional or college locker room, there's these big signs in bold letters that gambling is strictly prohibited. You could be out of the league if you're a professional if you do this.
Yeah,
but
unless you're Michael Jordan playing quarters against the wall.
Good
prior
point.
to playoff game.
But again, because DraftKings and FanDuel, and there's so many and more apps, probably apps we can't even imagine yet, are going to roll out, making gambling easier on our phones and more mainstream. So you're also going to have a generation of athletes that A, gambling is more mainstream to them, and B, they've probably done it in high school, even though you're not supposed to till you're 18 or 21, but they probably will have done it in high school and in college. So it might even be more difficult for those athletes not to gamble on their sport. I mean, that's the big no. That's the big taboo. It's like, all right, we'll let you gamble, but you can't gamble on your sport. So it's going to be very interesting to see where that leads us and how that's going to become a big deal or not.
Yeah, because a lot of people who talk sports, whether it be for a living or just part of their daily life, that's why they do bet, because they feel like they have the upper hand, right? And that's where they're going to earn their pay. And so I could see potentially some players doing that. But also, I think you're already trying to have an organization and a team that is filled with character guys, right? And so you would assume, and I think rightfully so, that they would carry that character over to things like gambling and what you could and could not gamble on. And one of those things you could not gamble on is yourself.
Mm-hmm. Very, very interesting. Meanwhile, yesterday, Steve Sarkisian had a press conference. We heard more, and he kind of fleshed out more his philosophy with regard to his quarterbacks, and the fact that, while we do know who the starter is, Hudson Card, Casey Thompson as well, though, apparently going to see playing time in game one against Louisiana. And it kind of sounds as though, this, even though Hudson Card is the starter right now, it doesn't sound like that's written in stone, that, depending on performance for both of them in that opening game, that could certainly change starters perhaps, and maybe playing time, allotment of playing time moving forward. How do you feel about the quarterback situation at Texas?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think, he said last week when someone asked him about, what if you name a starter and the other one decides to go into the transfer portal, and his answer was, and I think rightfully so, he can't worry about that. He has to pick the quarterback that's best for the team. And now that we're in this situation where I've named a starter, but it's basically a week-to-week basis now of who's going to be the starter, because he's saying Hudson Card obviously getting the start this weekend, but Casey Thompson also going to get some playing time, and we'll reevaluate in a week. It almost seems like he's still towing a line, and so I'm curious if he truly just doesn't know who will end up being the right guy for his program, or if maybe he did think a little bit more into, well, one of these guys might transfer, and what would I do if one of them got hurt, or they ended up not being the right pick. So here's Coach Sark on that yesterday.
Yeah, Hudson Card is going to start Saturday against Louisiana. Casey will play in the game, and then we'll continue to evaluate from there. But that's the direction we're going to go in this weekend. Hudson's a very talented young man. He's got great work ethic. He really tries to operate the way we want to operate in. And just as I told Hudson and Casey, it's really not a knock on Casey. Both guys really started to perform very well after that first scrimmage. And, it was a tough call, but I think in general, you try to make the best decision for the program at that time. But again, that's why I think Casey's going to play in this game. We'll reevaluate after one game. Neither guy's ever started a game in their career, so we'll look at it after 1 week. The good part for both those guys is I think we're improving as an offense. I think that we're steadily improving on the offensive line. I think the incorporating the tight ends into the system has been helpful. The receiver picture is starting to clear itself up. Then obviously just what we have at running back. So I think all in all, the entire offense has started to kind of elevate its play, and it's made things a little easier on the quarterbacks.
Steve Sarkisian, his comments about the quarterback situation. Shannon, are you at all concerned? I mean, usually as you go into game number one, you have chosen your quarterback. This is the guy who's going to lead us. Again, as you suggest, part of this decision might be, to make sure you've got a really good backup quarterback so that, nobody's going to hit that transfer portal if they think they're not the guy or they're not going to get playing time. But, granted, Sark, a first-year coach, dealing with new personnel, everything's new to everybody here. But are you troubled at all by this?
I'm not. I have a lot of faith and trust in Sark, and even if that's might be considered blind faith because we haven't seen anything legit happen yet because this is game one of his tenure. But I have to trust that he's making the best decision for the team and that he truly believes the words that are coming out of his mouth. I mean, depth chart was released yesterday, so the guys you see at the 1s and 2s are the ones you're going to see on the field. And he was also asked about whether or not game one would be scripted, and he had a great answer towards that. And that brings me some confidence too of the guys should feel good about the plays and the schemes that they're going to be running this weekend.
Script our openers, and they're always a little bit of a mixed bag. Sometimes they are the things that we think are great schematically for the game. Sometimes they're to make sure specific players are getting enough touches in the game. Sometimes it's doing things that we know the players already do really well so that they can get some confidence. So there's a little bit of you guys remember when you grew up and you go to your grandma's house and she'd make the best cookies, right? Well, we try not to screw up grandma's cookie recipe. It's like we try to make sure that we're putting everything in that cookie that makes it taste the best, right? And we try not to outthink ourselves or outsmart ourselves and say, well, if we added this, all of a sudden you bite into that cookie and your mom made it, it never quite tastes like grandma's cookie. So we try to keep it right about pretty similar in that line of fire. So
He later said the cookies he was referencing were sugar cookies.
Sugar cookies.
But I like it. Charlie Strong, when he left, was talking about the next guy. The cake is baked. Someone just needs to ice it, whatever. We've moved on to cookies in the bakery that is Texas. And I like it. It's don't, kind of the same analogy of if it ain't broke, don't try and fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And so work with what the guys are comfortable with and what you've seen work in practice and make those adjustments as you go, but don't try and change things up just because it's game day. It's part of why they did the walkthrough last week. This is how it's going to go. So I'm hoping that the scheme they do have in place and the script they do have in place and the guys that they say are going to get X amount of touches, get those touches, and that they are able to perform with the script that they've been given, or as Mr. Sark says, the recipe they've been given. And I hope everything comes out delicious.
As you hit all the places you want to go before the game, Shannon, somebody needs to now come out with some grandma's cookies, some official team Longhorn logo on them, sugar cookies, grandma's cookies.
Tiff's Treats is a huge supporter of Texas, and one of the benefits of being a media member is that at halftime there is always a giant warm plate of fresh Tiff's Treats. I think if they're not already up in that kitchen mixing away, or just they have a great sugar cookie, and he was talking about sugar cookies, maybe they just kind of rename it with some fun Sark references. But yeah,
exactly.
We continue to be the marketing geniuses of Morning Drive, sir. You and I.
There you go.
Fantastic.
And again, while I find it slightly troubling, and maybe it's a good dilemma to have, that neither one of these quarterbacks, Hudson Card or Casey Thompson, has emerged as the slam dunk. He's the guy. It's got to be the guy. But what Sark, in that first soundbite that you played, he made a great point. Neither one of these guys has started a game yet. So it is new territory for both of them. The coaching staff and Sark in particular is going to have a window into what these guys do, when shots are being fired on a football field for real. And you didn't have coming in like an incumbent like a Sam Ehlinger, where you knew, here's my veteran, barring anything really crazy, preparing for the season, that's going to be our guy. I mean, you had a competition coming in, and we have a bit of a nod. We know the starter is going to be Hudson Card, but we'll also get a look at Casey Thompson. Now, in a game, Shannon, against a ranked opponent, by all accounts, Louisiana Lafayette, this should be, what are they, number 23? This should be a very, very good football game if both teams play to their potential. So, I mean, that's going to be fascinating to see the flow of the game and what the what the score might be or the circumstance might be if a change is made at quarterback, and then if a secondary change back to Hudson Card is made, when, why, and in what situation. That's going to be something to keep an eye on as well.
And again, it's game one, so like I said, kind of blind faith, right? I mean, when Texas did beat Notre Dame that year, it was, oh my gosh, Texas is back. Look at this. They've beaten Notre Dame. It's going to be a great year. And then ultimately Notre Dame just kept continuing sliding, and Texas didn't fare very well either that season, right? So take everything with a grain of salt, but yes, they are both ranked teams, and it will look good for either one to get a win here. A lot of times Texas is used to playing those unranked teams earlier on in the season. That doesn't mean they're not great teams. It just, they don't have that special number in front of them that people weigh so heavily. We will learn so much during game one, more than we probably do when we normally have our regular quarterback or the guy that we know is good to go or the brand new head coach. There's a lot to be discovered this weekend.
And as we've said about the Dallas Cowboys, and it was Michael Irvin who said this, looking at their game one against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, think for a moment what it would be like if the Cowboys beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In the case of the Texas Longhorns, Shannon, think for a moment if they can get a quality, first of all, I was about to say if they can get a quality win. I think any win, if you can beat a good team like Louisiana, is going to be a good win. I think you'll take a 1-point win. I think you'll take a win, a field goal at the end, whatever it takes. But it would be very, very nice if we see that everything that we had hoped for, offensively with these quarterbacks, with Bijan Robinson at running back, and defensively, if it all comes together and Texas plays very, very well. You and I and Mike Taylor, we, last week unveiled our Big 12 predictions and who we think is headed to the Big 12 championship game. Obviously, this won't count toward that specifically, but it would be nice if all goes well and they get off on the right foot. We talked about how it would be rough if this team got off to an 0-1 or an 0-2 start. Wouldn't be the end of the world. And obviously, I believe this is a team that's, because of Sark and everything being new, is only going to get better week by week by week. But how nice would it be to play well, get the opening win, be 1-0, and have game number one be a victory for Coach Sark?
Yeah, I think people still have flashbacks to Maryland and those losses, and it hurts them so much that they just don't know what they would do if Texas would come out and lose again with another new head coach. I think that if he gets this win, it'll mean more for the belief people have in Sark and his regime and what his future at Texas might be.
Don't forget, just after 8 o'clock, the expert, the woman who's covering the Longhorns day in and day out as managing editor of Horns 24/7, Taylor Estes, going to go in depth on the Longhorns with us as they get ready for their opener this Saturday, 3:30 at Royal Memorial Stadium, DKR, against Louisiana. So we'll get more into that. But coming up, it's going to be time for Shannon's Salty Shakedown. We'll give you a little sports history, little sports birthdays as well. And don't forget, just after 8:30, we'll give you a shot at those Coheed and Cambria tickets at Circuit of the Americas. So much going on this weekend, and we are all over it. She's the salty one, Shannon Salty Sweeney, Dave Ayler making the show go. Thank you for hanging out with us. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Fun, fun, fun. Going to do it one more time, Dave. Hopefully this is the last time. All right. I got to record spots. This might be the last time I have to do it this morning. For the love of God. Very nice. Now let's do this. All right, here we go. Woo!
Back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney.
Sark has me with a hankering for some grandma's sugar cookies. I'm just saying, sports talk isn't supposed to make you hungry, but it does sometimes. Welcome back. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. In a moment, the Salty Shakedown. You live for it. It happens. You're moments away. You shall be rewarded. We'll bring you some sports history and some sports birthdays. Reminder, we'll dive deeper into Texas Longhorn football and how this team is getting ready for the big opener this Saturday against Louisiana. Taylor Estes going to join us just after 8 o'clock. She's the managing editor of Horns 24/7. And just after 8:30, another shot at winning Coheed and Cambria tickets. They are coming to Circuit of the Americas, specifically Germania Insurance Amphitheater. That is a 6:30 show on Saturday. Again, you can do the game and the concert if you so choose. And the number you're going to need for the tickets and the number you can call us anytime you would like is 800-707-9760. We'll talk some more NFL football as well, as today's a big, big day as the teams will make their cuts and cut down to that 53-man roster. We'll get more into that in just a moment as well. But right now, before Shannon's Salty Shakedown, how about some sports birthdays and this day in sports history? I've talked about it before. They used to, and in my lifetime, I saw the Cowboys play. The college all-star game started the preseason, where the defending champions of the Super Bowl, or before the Super Bowl, the NFL would take on the college all-stars. Well, the first ever college all-star versus NFL champion football game took place on this day in 1934, as the Chicago Bears and the college all-stars played to a 0-0 tie. What is this, soccer? 0-0 tie in front of 79,432 people. That's crazy. And they played that game up until like the mid-1970s. So a Steelers team with Terry Bradshaw and Mean Joe Green played in the college all-star game. On this day in 1959, Sandy Koufax breaks Dizzy Dean's National League mark of 18 strikeouts in one game. That Sandy Koufax was pretty good. This day in 1972, Soviet gymnast Olga Korbut wins the balance beam and floor exercise gold medals at the Munich Olympics. Follows gold in the teams all around. Olga Korbut was all the rage at the 72 Munich Olympics from the Soviet Union. And finally, on this day in 1991, Houston Cougars quarterback David Klingler, remember him? David Klingler set the NCAA record with 6 touchdown passes in the second quarter. Not in the game. 6 touchdown passes in the second quarter as the Houston Cougars clobbered Louisiana Tech 73-3. We talked about running up high school football games yesterday. 73-3 is a bit much. Houston Cougars, maybe you're getting some karma now, these 30 years later. That's your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1935, Baseball Hall of Fame, easy for me to say, Baseball Hall of Fame outfielder and manager. He was the National League MVP in 1961 and the American League MVP in 1966. Frank Robinson, born on this day in 1935 in Beaumont, Texas. I didn't know he was from Beaumont, Texas. Frank Robinson passed away in 2019. Born on this day in 1949, American football coach, coached the Giants in 1997 to 2003, and he coached before that at the University of Utah 1985 to 89. Jim Fossil was born on this day in 1949 in Anaheim, California. Sadly, Jim Fossil passed away earlier this year. And finally, born on this day in 1983, headed someday to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Arizona Cardinal wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald, who I think is still with Arizona. I don't think he retired yet, did he? I don't think he did. All right. There's your sports birthdays. There's your sports history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here it is. And again, if you're in your car, both hands on the wheel, take a deep breath, chant your mantra, because here it is, Shannon's Salty Shakedown.
All right, Chris, I'm sure you've heard about this in recent days, but the story just keeps getting bigger, so I feel like we need to bring it to light now. Bishop Sycamore. Apparently a high school. Or is it? They played a game against IMG Academy over the weekend, aired nationally on ESPN as part of their high school football series to shed light on high school football as we get into the college football and NFL seasons, like a little appetizer, if you will. And the issue here is that apparently Bishop Sycamore High School is not a school at all. It was made up. Some key signs to this being that they played 2 games within 3 days. Their head coach is apparently has an active arrest warrant out for him. And deep diving some of these players, because they found they didn't exist within the high school world, found that a lot of these players were junior college dropouts that were way above the high school age. And this has really caused a stir with a lot of people. They ended up losing this game to IMG Academy, by the way, 58-0. If you saw any lowlights, as I will call them, it was not pretty. A lot of people are arguing, well, the safety, you had these older men playing against these high school boys. Well, these older men had no idea what they were doing. They were clearly not a team. People are asking, how did ESPN pick this up? How was this not verified? How did IMG not verify anything against this team? How did it all come together? It just keeps getting more and more ridiculous. Chris, your thoughts on Bishop Sycamore High School, noticeably the acronym there, BS.
Whoa, very nice.
Bishop Sycamore.
First of all, I want my Bishop Sycamore t-shirt. I mean, that would be a cool, hey man, Bishop Sycamore. That is one of the most bizarre, crazy stories I have heard. Arrest warrants for, arrest record for the coach. I got to learn more about it. That's a crazy, crazy story, but I kind of like it for some reason.
There's a lot of questions being asked about this. I list some of them, right? How did ESPN bring them up? I know they claim that they had a lot of top recruits on their team. How did no one really vet these teams and IMG, allowing this to be scheduled? My question here is, these players were mostly junior college dropouts. If I'm a junior college dropout, what is the pitch for me to come and play on a supposed high school team that doesn't exist to pull off this scam to try and get on ESPN? Are they trying to make them think that they're going to actually be good and maybe they'll be seen by the NFL scouts and immediately be picked up? You'd have to be almost crazy to think that would actually happen, for one, but were they paying them under the table? What took you away from your day job to be like, this will be fun. This will be good.
If you're a player and your dream went away after junior college and you think you can still play football, maybe this, we talk about that show Last Chance U. Maybe this was the last chance for people to try to, catch on with Bishop Sycamore. I don't know. There's no easy answers here.
You mentioned a show. People are speculating now that there might be one coming of this situation. Ooh. It's not a good look for either Bishop Sycamore or IMG Academy or ESPN at the moment, as things and details are still being fledged out. We're going to move on to another not so good look in the high school football world. Are you familiar with Trent Dilfer, sir?
Oh, yes. Yes, I am.
He did a thing like win a Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens in
I was
2000.
there that night.
He then moved on to a broadcasting career, and now he is a head coach in Tennessee. Well, his team recently won 67-7, but what's being talked about is not the win. It's what he did on the sideline during that win. He took a player that he was yelling at. He kind of grabbed him by the pads and shoved him back, told him to go sit down. That player is tight end Bo Dawson. And that alone, the shoving and the yelling and treating a high school player as such, especially when they don't consider that high school football team to be a team there. They consider it to be a human development program masked as a football team for this Christian-based school. To treat a player like that, a young player like that, it just was not a good look. It was a home game, so a lot of families were there, friends were there, administrators were there. It was a full crowd. Not a good look for the 30-year head coach, Trent Dilfer. But on top of that, this tight end, Bo Dawson, is the son of Phil Dawson, a former teammate of Trent Dilfer, and also Phil Dawson, the special teams coordinator for this very team. I mean, he was there. I haven't seen a reaction from Phil, but after the backlash, Trent Dilfer has said he should have been a better leader and shown greater wisdom. I don't know. Do you strip him of his head coaching position? I mean, they're pretty good, 67-7, but I don't know if that was my kid. I wouldn't be so. I know it's football, and there are some things in football that you just got to play football to understand, whatever. But it is high school.
Well, I saw the video, and apparently Bo Dawson, the tight end, was a little bit defiant. Obviously, I don't think there's anything that a high school player can do to therefore receive physical contact from a coach or a teacher or an adult.
Not the problem.
So it was the grabbing of the shoulder pad and kind of pushing him. So I don't think he loses his job. I mean, obviously you need to apologize. He did that. This is a learning moment, I think, for Trent Dilfer. It's like, dude, did I hear you right? They won that game 67-7.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not
what
like.
Was the problem?
Yeah, it's not like it's a pressure cooker. Oh my God, we're down 3.
You blew it.
Dude, you're up by a gazillion points. So, I mean, just weird. Over the years, I've heard Trent Dilfer as an NFL analyst and a guy who analyzes. I like him. Whenever he comes on Cowherd or something, it's like I stop and listen because I think he's knowledgeable. But man, he lost it. And again, though, and Shannon, we talk about this a lot. I don't think you can judge a human being by one moment when they kind of lose it and have a bad moment. But this was a bad moment. He had to own it. He had to apologize for it, and he's done that.
Yeah. And another lesson in, there's always a camera on you.
Especially
when you are a former NFL
Yep.
Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to assume that every game you take your team to, your team has probably gotten over the fact that their head coach is who he is. But those other players that are from the visiting school, probably not. So just assume that there's always a camera on you. All right, moving from high school back into the pros, or really the retired pros, because we have another Shaq story, sir. And this one is part of the business world. We love Shaq. We usually talk about the good deeds he does. Well, now he's Mr. Businessman Shaq, or owner Shaq, because he is apparently buying Reebok from Adidas for $2.5 billion. I have to assume he's got some other investors. I mean, I know Shaq isn't hurting, but $2.5 billion is quite the investment. Now, it's interesting because he recently told a story about why he walked away from a $40 million contract from Reebok. He was at one point under contract during his playing days. He decided to walk away, although he did continue to wear Reeboks on the court when he did play, but he was scolded by a woman because she was upset that he was selling these shoes with Reebok that kids couldn't afford, right? That's not money. That's not the spending money kids have to go out and buy their favorite athlete's shoes. So he decided to turn down a $40 million deal. He later partnered with Walmart. They got together and created some shoes. He actually took some of the people from Reebok with him to help design them. And they were selling those shoes for $19 to $30. And he said, look, it's not that kids don't want to wear $20 shoes. They just don't want to wear shoes that look like they cost $20.
Yeah.
Right. They need to look great. And that shoe brand has done very, very well for Walmart. But now he's back with Reebok as the owner for $2.5 billion. And they're re-releasing the Shaqnosis shoes, a shoe that was originally released in 1996. That version today will cost you $140. But he's back with Reebok. I didn't realize, I know Shaq has got plenty of endorsements. He's not hurting for money, but I don't know that I ever saw him as like a creative owner type. Did you?
Yeah, I didn't either. And what was the number on the purchase of Reebok?
It'll cost you 100, or the total purchase.
The total for the company,
$2.5 billion.
$2.5 billion. My God. And as you said, obviously Shaq's not putting up all the money, but to be a part of that and to be an owner, and I mean, The more you look at Shaq, I mean, he's really diversifying the things he does in life. And we normally talk about Shaq for lately doing good things for people, like buying the guy the engagement ring that he ran into in the jewelry store. So more power to him. Go Shaq, go. A guy I didn't used to like, because back in the day when he was with the Lakers, he would say some bad things about David Robinson, which really angered me as a Spurs fan. But I have really grown to like and appreciate Shaq. So I hope this brings him everything he's looking for.
Well, I think it'll be good for the brand. I mean, when I think of Reebok, I think of JJ Watt, and that's really the only athlete that immediately comes to mind without looking up others. I'm sure there are others out there. I'm sure the rest of the Watts are now in on JJ's Reebok deal, but I think it'll be good for basketball. I've seen the new Shaq Nose's shoes. They're in partnership with Dame Lillard, who is an Adidas athlete, but they used to be under Adidas. So I guess there's still some linkage there between them that allows Dame to create the shoe with Shaq. They're kind of a red and black look, if that's your thing. Those will be released on September 1st. Again, only $140, which compared to Jordan's, that's not too bad. That's not too bad.
And I'm unhip when it comes to high-end shoes. So I missed the Shaq Gnosis shoes the first time around.
Yeah.
So I didn't. The first time I heard Shaq Gnosis was right now during the Salty
If
Shakedown.
I was still playing, that would not be the look I would go for. But, more shoes possibly to come now that Shaq is the owner of Reebok. There it is, today's Salty Shakedown.
Another outstanding, informative, mind-blowing Salty Shakedown. Got a couple of reactions during that on Trent Dilfer, Shannon, on Facebook Live. Jason Paniagua says, I am on Team Trent on this one. It's football. He didn't assault the kid. And then Warren Wheeler says, Dilfer didn't do anything wrong. These kids are just soft these days. I still, Shannon, when you physically, I remember the time Woody Hayes in the 70s, a head coach at Ohio State, went and choked one of his players, which was very extreme. Yeah. But I think you can't, there has to be a line, and the line is you can't physically touch the players. Because at what point you go, okay, he just grabbed his shoulder pad. Well, then if that's okay, then how further can you extend that line? Yeah. So I think we just need a line that says you don't touch the kids. That's it.
And I get there are soft kids out there, but let's not call this kid soft. He's not the one who shot the video and then released the video. He's not out here making statements like, I can't believe you did that to me. He's just the guy in the video, right? I mean, and you call him soft. Apparently he was maybe talking back to the coach. That's not soft to me. If the kid has the guts to talk back to a guy like that, who apparently doesn't have any problem with yelling at his players and every now and again, grabbing him by the shoulder pads and telling him to sit down. Not soft.
Yeah, just don't grab. If you want to get him physically, he's a football player. Tell him he's drop and give me 20 push-ups or something. But in the video, and I did see the video, he does appear to be very defiant, this tight end Bo Dawson, and talking back to his coach Trent Dilfer. He didn't seem like he was following instructions. So it looked like an ugly, very intense moment between the two of them.
So. And again, we don't have all the context. It was just that short clip. We don't know what happened before. We don't know what happened after. But again, the point being, realize there's a camera on you, bro. You're not in the NFL, but you're still very much a public figure.
Yeah, and even if you're not Trent Dilfer, it's a good in life these days.
Understand where we are in society.
There's probably a camera watching you.
Things differently.
Very, very true. Time. Well, one of our favorite guests is next. And she is so knowledgeable about the Texas Longhorns because she is covering them 24/7, literally at Horns 24/7, where she is the managing editor. That is the one and only Taylor Estes. She will join us next. We'll talk about the quarterbacks. We'll see what else is on her radar, what else she learned at the Sark press conference yesterday, and how she feels about this big opener against number 23, Louisiana. Taylor Estes joins us next. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Ayler making the show go. With you till 9. Thanks for hanging out on the Chris Duel Show. All right. Now, Dino says, I was taught never to talk back to your coach. In my opinion, he didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. I just think you get into trouble. And obviously, people who grew up in my era, I mean, I remember playing gosh, YMCA 11-man tackle football, and the coach, when he got angry at you, would grab your face mask and jostle your head around. That was common, but I think in the modern day, yell at them, discipline them, but I think you get into trouble when you grab them and shove them by the shoulder pad, because if it goes wrong, if that kid fell down backwards because Trent Dilfer shoved him, I mean, it could have gone real bad. Okay, now I need the first two, which were those there. Okay. Dave is calling Taylor. Okay, let's see here. Thank you, sir. Very funny, John. That's a different Taylor. Whatever happened to Taylor Dane? We'll have to Google her someday. Clint Proctor, what is up?
This is the Chris Duel Show. Now, Chris Duel.
It is Tuesday, August 31st. We are about to wrap up the month of August and move into September. And September means football to so many of us. Welcome in. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. And of course, football kicks off in a big way this Saturday, 3:30 p.m. DKR Royal Memorial Stadium in Austin as the Texas Longhorns take on a very, very good number 23 Louisiana, aka Louisiana Lafayette football team. And lots of news from the 40 acres. Steve Sarkisian with a press conference yesterday talking about what is happening at quarterback for the Texas Longhorns. We'll talk about that and more right now with our go-to source for everything Longhorns. She is the managing editor of Horns 24/7. Taylor Estes, welcome back. How are you this morning?
Hey, Chris, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing great. Are you, now that it's game week and now that it's just a few days away until Saturday, do you get an extra buzz? Do you have like extra juice knowing that we're so close to seeing the Longhorns finally get out there and play football for real?
You know, there's definitely some excitement. I feel like we're kicking into overdrive with just, the amount of workload and everything that goes on. So probably the opposite of that. But obviously, the off season can be very long a lot of times in our industry. So having a game to actually look ahead to and, real football to talk about can be a lot more exciting than, just predicting what would happen or preseason rankings list. So for sure, so there's a lot more excitement, I would say, more so than anything.
Before we get too far into this week's game, want to go into the future with you real quick. It was announced yesterday Texas signed 2 4-stars, an edge rusher and a defensive lineman. Tell us about that and Sark's recruiting here at Texas so far.
Some Texas fans I feel like have been a little bit worried about the recruiting, but I think that usually is what happens anytime a first-year head coach and new staff comes in. But yeah, Texas, I like right now based off of 24/7 composite rankings has the number 6 ranked recruiting class in 2022. The Longhorns added Jamon Taft last night, the edge rusher, 4-star, and then also, a 4-star defensive lineman and Jeray Bledsoe. So definitely Bo Davis, defensive line coach, is doing something right. The defensive line entering the season, honestly, is looking like a strength for this team right now for 2021 as well. So, it looks like the Longhorns are kind of recruiting, I would say. I know this sounds weird, but I would say probably more so at an SEC level at defensive line. And I feel like that's exactly what they're going to have to really do in order to turn around the trajectory of the defense that has kind of been up and down over the last several years.
Yeah, that's very fascinating. Just thinking that, the Longhorns are thinking SEC throughout recruiting from here on out. So interesting that it certainly appears that way as well from your reporting. Talking Horns with Taylor Estes. And Taylor, of course, the big headlines involving this football team seem to be revolving around the quarterbacks. We learned just a few days ago that Hudson Card would be the starter for the Longhorns, but we have since learned, and of course I'm sure you heard as well being there yesterday, that press conference, Steve Sarkisian saying that Casey Thompson will play as well. How do you think this will shake out on Saturday against Louisiana as far as the quarterbacks go?
That's a really good question because, I think that a lot of people right now are trying to read the tea leaves a little bit when it comes to the quarterback battles, and it was pretty close, between Hudson Card and Casey Thompson. Steve Sarkisian has said all along that he will need both of those quarterbacks. Now, you can read that as coach speak and him trying to keep Casey Thompson on board, being a redshirt junior, a grad transfer candidate, he could essentially leave at or he probably, I would say, would probably, opt out of the season before he left at this point since it's so late. But, I think it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. I think a lot of Texas fans right now, based off the comments on our message board, are kind of wondering if this is going to be a split rep type of situation or what. I don't see that. I don't see Steve Sarkisian doing a 2 quarterback type of system at this point. It is interesting because it was a close race between Hudson Card and Casey Thompson from everything that we had heard, and Hudson Card just kind of broke away a little bit, after that first scrimmage that Texas held. So I think it's definitely something to keep an eye on. I don't know if it's necessarily over at this point, but it's clear that, that Hudson Card did enough to make Steve Sarkisian, want to give him the starting role. Now I think all eyes are on Casey Thompson to see what he decides to do. And again, as I mentioned, he is a grad transfer. He has, I believe, 2 years of eligibility left right now. So, I think all eyes are on how he's going to handle this and if he does stick around with the program, because Texas, I think, will definitely need him. A quarterback, he's one play away, from being the guy. And he learned that, obviously, firsthand in the Alamo Bowl against Colorado when Sam Ehlinger went out and then he came in the second half. So I think it's going to be tricky probably for Steve Sarkisian. This is why he makes $5 million a year, I would say. But overall, I think that everything that we had heard throughout fall camp was that Hudson Card just kind of had the edge a bit, especially coming out of that first scrimmage. And so it seems like, Steve Sarkisian is going to put his trust in him, but try to keep Casey Thompson along as much as he can.
Now, Taylor, it wasn't too much of a shot getting the depth chart yesterday, seeing Hudson Card at the top, because, of course, Horns 247 broke it over the weekend that he would be the named QB1 for Texas to start this weekend. But I have to ask you, not even just the coaches, right? We're hearing that, yes, Thompson's going to get some playing time, but I'm worried about the fans almost in this case, because I'm so used going back to like the Case McCoy eras and people wanting to see him put in, over a different guy because that guy seemed to be suffering. Do you fear that the fans might have influence over this decision during a game should things not be going Hudson Card's way?
No, I don't think so. I think that, the one thing that you have to look at with Steve Sarkisian is his track record in coaching the quarterback position. You go back to even last year at Alabama, he had Bryce Young, that was, I think, a 5-star, and then Mac Jones. He went with Mac Jones. That was the kind of underrated type of guy, and then Mac Jones turned into a Heisman finalist. And I know that some fans, the situation, anytime it's involving the quarterback position at Texas, fans can get very, very touchy when it comes to it. And it's almost like they pick sides. And I've never really understood that, because it's like these coaches are paid what they're paid for a reason, because this is their job. And so at this point, I mean, some fans may be, complaining a little bit. But the reality is, regardless of who Steve Sarkisian did pick, there's going to be growing pains. I mean, this is a first-time starter, whether it's a first-time starter redshirt freshman or a first-time starter redshirt junior, between the Hudson Card and Casey Thompson. So there's obviously going to be growing pains. Can't expect a first-time starter really to go in and just light it up. I mean, there's been very few times that's happened. Especially it is a redshirt freshman. I mean, there's only been two redshirt freshmen that ever won quarterbacks that have ever won a Heisman Trophy. And Johnny Manziel and Jameis Winston. So those are the rarities in the situation. I know that fans are going to be very kind of picky when it comes to this because of what they believe is the case. But what I keep trying to tell people is Steve Sarkisian is kind of a quarterback guru. He's one of the better offensive minds in all of football, I think. And, at this point, there's really no reason to question his decision-making, especially when it comes to the quarterback position. He recently was asked about, if this was the toughest battle that he's or decision that he's had to make. And he said it probably is recently. He went back to his time at USC when he was the offensive coordinator and had to pick between Matt Leinart and Matt Castle. And he went with Matt Leinart. And Matt Leinart went on to win a Heisman, win 2 national championships, and then Matt Castle still had a, more than decade-long career in the NFL. So I think his track record at this point should be enough that people need to kind of trust what he's doing, and especially when it comes to the quarterback position, because there's really no indication at this point that he could be making the wrong move just based off of how successful he has been coaching the position in his entire.
Taylor Estes with Horns 24/7, and Taylor just putting those names out there like Mac Jones and Matt Leinart and Matt Castle. I mean, it just illustrates the kinds of quarterbacks that Steve Sarkisian has worked with throughout his years coaching. And I agree with you. He is kind of a quarterback whisperer. You alluded to this, but I just want to get your thoughts on it just a little more directly on the prospect of a transfer portal for Casey Thompson. Had Steve Sarkisian said, hey, Hudson Card is our guy, this is it moving forward, there was that fear of among some people that Casey Thompson would enter the transfer portal. Any thought in your mind that part of this leaving the door a little bit open, because as you just documented, a quarterback is a play away from going in there and you're losing your starter a play away. If you didn't have a quality backup in Casey Thompson, that would not be good news for the Texas Longhorns. Any thought in your mind that part of this strategy, by letting Casey Thompson know, hey, you're going to get some reps in game one, just kind of extends his belief that he should stay here at Texas and maybe not look somewhere else?
I think that that's a fair point. I think that Steve Sarkisian, this has been a situation that he's kind of had, he's had to like to walk a tightrope a little bit when it comes to the quarterback position because of the transfer portal and how much easier nowadays it is to enter it, and so I think that that's definitely a valid point. I think that Casey Thompson, with the amount of eligibility he does have left, Steve Sarkisian's got to try to keep him around as much as possible. And I think that's probably what you're seeing. Now, to go back, Sarkisian didn't say, they're going to split reps. I want to make sure that wasn't, that was clear. I wasn't saying that that's the case. I think some fans wonder that. But I think that he's trying to essentially keep Casey along as much as possible. And also not just for having a quality backup quarterback, but also, you are going to have growing pains with a redshirt freshman that has been card. I don't think one play is going to make it to where he is pulled or anything like that. But I would be very shocked if there wasn't a little bit of a shorter leash than normal when you are dealing with a first-time starter. And then you also have to keep the other one engaged. So I think that this is a tough challenge, definitely, for Steve Sarkisian. But, based off of everything that you kind of look at the situation, you look at the eligibility remaining on the table for Casey Thompson, I think you have to almost try to do as much as you can to engage without, undermining the starting quarterback in Hudson Card too.
Taylor, we got Louisiana coming in town this weekend. Of course, they're dealing with some struggles in Louisiana thanks to that hurricane, but they are a ranked team, and so they're not a team that Texas or the fans should take lightly. What about them stands out and you think is pertinent information that fans should know as the Texas Longhorns look to face the Raging Cajuns?
I mean, this is definitely going to be a challenging matchup. I don't think that when Texas scheduled it, they would have expected Louisiana to be, a top 25 program, but that's what they're facing. I mean, it's almost not the exact same. Obviously, it's rare that any team is ever the exact same from, one year to the other in college football, but this is essentially the same team that beat Iowa State last year and to open the season. And Iowa State went on to play in the Big 12 Conference Championship game. So this is a really, really veteran team. They have a lot of returning talent. I think they have over 20 starters returning on both sides of the ball, including I believe, 10 on offense, I think. So this is literally like a very, very veteran team, probably one of the most veteran teams that Texas will face this year. They've got a lot of talent. Their defense is really solid. And I just think that, this is definitely not a team that you're going to want to take lightly if you are a Texas player, and I think that it probably, Iowa State obviously was shocked by them last year. And I think that Texas definitely cannot, do that to themselves in year one of Steve Sarkisian's first start. Because obviously when you see what happened to Tom Herman, I mean, losing the opening game of your career at Texas can be a huge, huge black eye, not just for you, but for the program as well. So I think that, Louisiana, they're a veteran group. They're really sound on defense. I will say that's probably one of the bigger things that you have to look at. So Texas is going to have, definitely a big challenge between facing this really solid defensive front, especially with a first-time starter and Hudson Card at quarterback. So definitely a sound team. It's going to be a challenge, no doubt. And so, we're going to see what Sarkisian and the Longhorns are made of early on in the season. And that's not usually always been the case for Texas.
Now, Taylor, I've got to ask you this because I noticed that, Horns 24/7, they bring so much noteworthy news that y'all have created your own YouTube platform for fans to go and check out. And you've actually, on your Twitter, incentivized people to go and subscribe. I'm hoping that you get enough by your deadline. Can you explain that and talk about what all is going to be on the channel?
Yeah, so I know I probably shouldn't have tweeted what I did, but yes, I did incentivize that we got to 5,000 subscribers to our YouTube channel by the Texas OU game that maybe the Horns 24/7 staff should shotgun a beer or something in celebration for that. So that is still on the table. I put it out in writing. It got there, so I'll have to stick to my word there. But, we're really trying to expand our video presence. And we had a really good interview with Joel Platt that we launched over the weekend, previewing the upcoming football season. So there's not a ton of content right now on there, but it will be coming. So it's definitely something that people will want to check out.
Yeah, and Taylor, I noticed on your Twitter account, you have direct links to that YouTube page and those YouTube videos. And Taylor is on Twitter at Taylor Estes 24/7. But if someone goes directly to YouTube, is there a specific search item they should put in the search engine to go find it on YouTube if they don't remember to go get it straight from your Twitter account?
Yeah, you can just search Horns 24/7 or Texas Longhorns on 24/7. It'll link you right to the page.
Perfect. So go do that and be sure to follow Taylor on Twitter, as I mentioned, at Taylor Estes 24/7. And of course, Horns 24/7 on Twitter at Horns 24/7. Taylor, as always, you've got the inside scoop. You got all the knowledge on the Texas Longhorns, and we love it. And again, as Shannon alluded to this, you guys broke the Hudson Card story a number of days ago before anybody else. So as always, you and Horns 24/7 doing fantastic work. Thanks so much for joining us and enjoy the game on Saturday.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. I always appreciate it.
Absolutely. Taylor Estes of Horns 24/7. And Shannon, while we just talked Texas Longhorns, some breaking news has occurred.
I might have even more breaking news than what you're going to break, but I'll let you go first, sir.
Wow. It's breaking news all over the place. Well, Dave Ayler, I'm going to let you break this news because you found it while we were talking to Taylor. This is big. Dallas Cowboy fans especially, listen up. Go ahead, Dave.
According to the Four Letter Network, your boy Ben DiNucci has been waived.
DiNucci! Danuch S. Lomas. Shannon, during the Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio, I turned to my friend Steve Duraco and said, Danucci is not long for this world. He looked totally lost that day, as he often did throughout preseason and training camp. Adios, Ben DiNucci. I wish you the best of luck on your future endeavors, but you ain't no Cowboy quarterback. Adios.
Well, neither is Garrett Gilbert, because he has also been released by the Dallas Cowboys. Ian Rappaport reports. So the Cowboys
that's a shocker.
Look to be officially in the quarterback market.
Shannon, you and I, watching Garrett Gilbert throughout this preseason, were confident, A, that he had won the number 2 job, at least for now, unless they went shopping, and B, had beaten out Cooper Rush. So of the 3, Cooper Rush, unless we find out in the next few minutes they're going to blow him out. Cooper Rush is
first. He's hiding.
Cooper Rush is still standing as Dallas Cowboys backup quarterback.
I mean, he's the longest one in that system, right? So he's got that going for him.
Wow.
But man, I can't wait for Hard Knocks to have. Can you imagine Mike McCarthy and the other guy picks up the phone? Danucci. Yeah, we've got to let you go. What if he calls him Danucci? That's when you know it's bad.
Oh yeah.
That's when you know something. He's like Ben Danucci, and you're like, oh man, this is it. But Garrett Gilbert kind of a surprise after he looked pretty decent last year when he did step in, given all the circumstances. You got a fair amount of playing time. I mean, what a day. I'm happy because I'm happy Danucci's gone.
Yeah.
But by Garrett, I don't really care about you either.
Well, and this is going to be really interesting today, Shannon, and we should all watch as other NFL teams, cut down to 53. If we're here tomorrow morning, Shannon, and the Cowboys haven't made a move at quarterback, and they stand pat with Cooper Rush is number 2 and Dak is number 1, and we don't have anybody else right now, I am not going to feel comfortable if that's the move. I'm hoping, and you said this from the get-go when you just reported that Garrett Gilbert, in addition to Ben DiNucci, was cut. It sure sounds as though the Cowboys are quarterback shopping as we speak.
Yeah. Will Greer now on the market after being released by the Panthers. So there's a name.
This is, if you're on social media, this is going to happen all day long. You're going to hear names that you have heard of. And usually on this day every year, 1 or 2 of those names, somebody who's been to a Pro Bowl or somebody who's, is a household name to football fans is released. It happens all the time. And sometimes it's just a money move. Sometimes it's a veteran. And it's like, we can get a younger guy for a lot less who is, now that you're a veteran, can be more effective than you are. So very, very interesting. So the breaking news, Ben DiNucci and Garrett Gilbert have been released by the Dallas Cowboys. As we roll forward, we will keep an eye on all of the breaking news from around the NFL because it is starting to come down the pike as we speak. And in the very next segment, your chance to win Coheed and Cambria tickets. We'll tell you how to do that coming up as well. She's the salty one with all the breaking news. Shannon Salty Sweeney, Dave Ayler breaking your Danucci news. Going to be a fun Hard Knocks. Is that tomorrow night? Hard Knocks? So they got
tonight.
That's wow.
It's Tuesday, Chris.
Now I wonder, can they turn that around in one night?
I don't think so.
Can they say, all right, we just got the footage of DiNucci being cut.
I don't think so.
Can we turn it around?
I don't think so. Because next week I think is the last episode, and that's typically where we say our goodbyes.
Damn it.
In more ways than one.
We'll see if DiNucci's all cocky in tonight's episode playing chess, talking about how smart quarterbacks are. All right, quick break. Giving away the Coheed and Cambria tickets and keeping an eye on the waiver wires because things are starting to happen in the National Football League this morning. Thanks for hanging out. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Wow, wow, wow. Ah. And just when I needed it, the M drive is down.
Yeah, it was down earlier this morning too, like about 5 o'clock.
Wow.
Give it about 5 minutes or so, and it'll like come back on its own.
Okay. Mm. Mm.
We're back. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Join in by dialing 1-800-707-9760.
We're back, but Ben DiNucci is not. Garrett Gilbert is not, as cuts are happening across the National Football League. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Shannon, I'm still trying to process how wrong we were on Garrett Gilbert. Of the three, he seemed to be the guy who had secured at least, the position going into week number one as still on this Dallas Cowboys roster. We heard Ben DiNucci, and it was funny during that interview with Taylor Estes, Dave Ayler, direct messaged us that Ben DiNucci was cut. Both of us were very ecstatic that Ben DiNucci is no longer going to be wearing a Cowboys uniform. But then the Garrett Gilbert news came down. You grabbed that one, and that one a little bit surprising to me.
I don't know that we can be at fault for thinking what we were thinking, because preseason's over with, right? And the Cowboys had that extra game to get a look at the players that they had on that current roster. And so you would thought that they were keeping two of those guys. So by all means, this points to them bringing in somebody, right? I mean, it has to, because I don't think it's fair to call Cooper Rush a backup. He is not a viable option. He's proven that in the past. Now, whether or not he's great at coaching up guys on the sideline and he looks to be like the next Kellen Moore, maybe in that aspect of things, then good for him. But he's not the guy that I want backing up Dak Prescott. And I would just like to say it now, Nick Foles to the Cowboys. This is my official statement and belief that it will happen and it will come to fruition. Whether or not that happens today or by the end of the week, I don't know, but I think it's happening. I think that is where we are headed at this moment.
Well, we're going to mark the tape on that, 8:39 a.m. on August 31st, 2021. I hope you are right, Shannon. Now, Jerry Jones might be playing a little poker here, if indeed Nick Foles is the idea. But John Machada, who reports on the Cowboys for The Athletic, just grabbed a couple of quotes from Jerry Jones, who was on radio in Dallas at 105.3 The Fan, talking about why Cooper Rush was kept as a quarterback. Jerry Jones said, quote, "I just think he has shown he can run the complete offense. Credit to him. He had some tough competition. He's had a lot of reps. All of those things make us feel real comfortable here." And then Jerry Jones went on to say that it's a high bar for another quarterback to beat out Cooper Rush to be Dak Prescott's backup. The quote is, quote, "It's a high bar when you've got the background in that Cooper Rush has," end quote. Now, again,
background.
Yeah, exactly. What background?
Who cares about what is in his mind if he can't do it when he gets out on the field? The background, there's a reason Kellen Moore traded in his helmet for a clipboard. Officially, I mean, he was already kind of holding the clipboard on a regular basis, but there's a reason. If you got the mind, that's where those who can't do teach. Okay. God, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
If the Cowboys aren't, I mean, if we are to take Jerry Jones at his word at this moment, and those quotes were from moments ago, reacting to the news that Garrett Gilbert and Ben DiNucci have been cut at quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. If you take him at his word, I think once again he's proving what a bad general manager he is, Shannon, because, I mean, you and I have been beating this drum. You need a quality backup quarterback to get through what is now a 17-game regular season in the National Football League. Again, I hope you're right. If Nick Foles is the ultimate goal, then I will be so happy and darn near ecstatic that the Dallas Cowboys get it, that you need a quality backup quarterback, because it ain't. And I mean, there were even times, I mean, from our eye test, granted, we haven't seen all the reps in practice, but we've seen all the snaps in preseason. And both you and I came to the conclusion that Garrett Gilbert won that competition with Cooper Rush. There were some times during preseason where Cooper Rush looked nearly as lost as Ben DiNucci. So
Yeah.
this is a little frightening at
Yeah.
this moment.
And at this very moment, yes, he's technically the backup on the roster because that's what happens when there are only two and Dak is named the starter. But I don't think it means that he's the backup for forever, right? I mean, there's somebody else is coming, right?
I certainly hope so. Yeah.
And so I pose this to you because we talk about Jerry saying, "Oh, I'm going to do everything in my power to win the Super Bowl." Now he's looking like he's making moves. Is it better for him to better late than never in this case, or hey, why didn't you do this sooner?
Good question. I mean, I will always take better late than never, and I think that's what we're hoping for from Jerry Jones ever since Jimmy Johnson left. It's been kind of mismanagement at general manager. Some other just some Cowboys news coming down the pike. None of these are big names, but getting reporting that defensive end Rondell Carter was waived, but he is expected to join the practice squad if he clears waivers. That's according to Cowboys reporter Michael Gelkin. Also, the Cowboys have released safety Darian Thompson. According to reports, apparently he was a valuable special teamer with starting experience on defense. Apparently there's interest in having safety Darian Thompson return to the team if he can clear waivers. And no surprise that a wide receiver, undrafted rookie Osiris Mitchell out of Mississippi State has been waived. But again, he's expected to maybe be a practice squad guy for the Dallas Cowboys. So this is Shannon, as we've mentioned, this is going to be happening all morning long. If you just pay attention to, Twitter, social media, and the sports websites, which include AM1300thezone.com and ticket760.com throughout the morning, we will be having these cuts and, hopefully. So, all right, Shannon, let's, if your prediction is correct, and Nick Foles or somebody comparable, somebody decent. I talked about, CJ Beathard, who played with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers recently and was with the Jacksonville Jaguars in that preseason game on Sunday, opposing the Cowboys. Let's assume that it is somebody like a Nick Foles. Do you think that deal happens today? I mean, you're 9 days out from opening night, so. Do you try to get that guy in camp sooner than later?
I mean, I'm sure talks are going to happen. I mean, again, he comes with kind of a large contract issue, and I don't know what the Cowboys funds look like, but I mean, the conversation certainly has to be taking place.
And even if you get a Nick Foles in here in the next couple of days, that guy, I mean, for week one against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, whoever you get, and I would love Nick Foles, is not going to be able to learn that offense. So if anything happened to Dak Prescott, God forbid, in that game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Cooper Rush would be the guy. I would think even if you had Nick Foles in uniform, he wouldn't know the offense yet, and Cooper Rush does. So here we go. This just gives me the creeps about the Dallas Cowboys with regard to backup quarterback. A year ago, and it turned out that he wasn't that good. When we had the red rifle last year, you had a quality backup quarterback, we thought, and it just didn't work out that way. But now it's Cooper Rush. I mean, I felt a lot better on opening day a year ago about our backup quarterback situation than I do now. Andy Dalton had played a lot of games and won a lot of games and been to the playoffs 4 times as a quarterback. And he was our backup a year ago going into week 1. And now we got Cooper Rush.
Cooper Rush to turn it over. That's what I like to call him.
Wow.
And there's a good chance, Garrett or DiNucci might end up on the practice squad. Garrett's been there before, and him being there would allow the Cowboys to reach back and pull him back up if need be. And maybe they will. Maybe they go out and they try and find a guy like a Nick Foles to bring in and can't get one. So in comes Garrett Gilbert once again. But this huge. I was expecting DiNucci for sure today. Yeah. And that makes my day. I'm a happy camper today.
Yeah. And again, no ill will toward Ben DiNucci. I'm sure he's a very nice guy and a very good guy. He's very likable on Hard Knocks. So
just better at chess.
Take up a chess career. Maybe that could be your next thing. Something we haven't gotten into yet, Shannon, and I know it is on your radar. It's in your show notes. that we've got some updates on alternate broadcasting and Eli and Peyton Manning and some stuff going on there. What do you have in the world of broadcasting updates?
Yeah, so we already knew that Peyton and Eli were going to be part of a Monday night alternate broadcast, where they'd just kind of be talking over the game, and they've kind of come down with what that'll look like a little bit more. Some people thought maybe they'd have a third in there to liven things up, almost like a special guest or someone who maybe is a little bit more familiar with broadcasting games. But at this point, it really seems like you're just going to get a live peek into two buddies that happen to know the game very well, used to play, won a couple Super Bowls, and that it's going to be like you're watching the game with them, and they're just kind of going to be going off the cuff, which could be very, very exciting. I hope all the Monday night games are good. It'll be hard for them if they're not great games and they're having, because sometimes you get really into a game and other times you're like, I could change the channel if there was something else on.
Yeah.
So I hope that for their sake that the Monday night games we had some great Monday night games last year. So I hope that lives up to that again. And then over on the NBC side of thing, of course, they have Sunday Night Football. They've officially announced Drew Brees and Maria Taylor as part of their pregame show. Not a huge surprise, but it is nice. I think they're obviously both great at what they do. I think Drew Brees was on something over the weekend. I don't think I got to watch that one, but he's, gotten his feet wet a little bit. And then of course, Maria Taylor, we know her, we love her. We're glad to see her with NBC now. I'm glad that she finally has an official show to be back and a part of. I know she's been doing a lot of Olympic coverage since she made her way over to NBC.
Yeah, I'm sure Rachel Nichols will be tuning into NBC's Football Night in America to watch Maria Taylor's work. And it'll be interesting to see if Drew Brees brings some of that Tony Romo charisma. Will he make that transition into the broadcast booth and be something really special, which I think he could. I think he has the potential to be Romo-esque, but Romo sets a high bar. And I wonder, Shannon, and I love the idea because I want to sample it, and I think I'm going to like it. Eli and Peyton Manning doing their own reaction to a football game. I wonder if that becomes a thing to where, if that's successful, there would be like multiples. Because I had so much fun just listening to Michael Irvin on that Cowboys-Jaguars game. It's like, so if I had a Cowboys game and I had the option to listen to, Deion Sanders and Michael Irvin versus whoever, if it's Tony Romo and Joe Buck, Troy Aikman and Joe Buck, I'm probably going with those guys. But or if it's Romo and Jim Nantz, but this could turn into a thing from now on. If you develop multiple, must see. I always talk about TNT with, Shaq and Kenny the Jet Smith and, that whole panel being so good that no matter what's going on, I will put the remote control down and listen to them. If Eli and Peyton Manning are successful at this, it might open up multiple alternative audio streams for NFL football games.
It'll also be interesting, and I believe that the Peyton stream is going to be on ESPN Plus, which is obviously a paid-for service compared to the regular ESPN broadcast. But the numbers, what those look like, because a lot of people, even so far during preseason, like that cast of characters, that they talk a lot on that Monday Night Football crew. They don't really leave any room for interpretation for anyone watching. And sometimes it's just better to let people take in the ambiance that is a live action NFL game. And, the recent years, they've run through a cast of characters. People may decide they like those two characters better. And what would that mean for Monday Night Football as we currently know it? Because I can't see them being content with this, paid for service getting more viewers than their regular service where these big advertising dollars are for.
It's a great point. And I truly believe Monday Night Football, just like Sunday Night Football, you need star power. You need some kind of sizzle. And I think Peyton Manning can deliver the sizzle. I don't know that the crew that is in there can deliver the sizzle. We want to thank Taylor Estes of Horns 24/7. She is always outstanding. Talked to her earlier this hour about the Texas Longhorns. Tomorrow on the show, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening, among others. We're going to give away Coheed and Cambria tickets. Have we done that? We haven't done that yet. Coheed and Cambria tickets.
No.
I darn near forgot the tickets. What caller do you want as we go out, Shannon?
We'll go caller 3 again. Caller 3.
Second day in a row. Second caller. And good luck. Made you wait.
9760.
800-707-9760. My bad once again. I'm having a great morning here. So good luck on the tickets. Let's see. Dave Ayler. Thank you, sir. Thanks for being with us. Let's do this again tomorrow. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, you were excellent today as always.
Thanks, sir. I'll be here.
All right. Coheed and Cambria tickets given away now. We'll do that again tomorrow. And maybe I won't wait till the end of the show to do that tomorrow. Enjoy all the NFL cuts today. Have yourself a great Tuesday. We'll see you mañana. Adios, amigos. My goodness. See y'all later. Take care.